I think mass migration is really top of the list, Mark, because they've brought in so many people into the country, 1.6 million under this current government, and it's just destroyed the housing market. We don't have enough homes for the people here. The infrastructure, the impact it's having on that. Your rental accommodation, most of the cities around the country, is less than 1%. So you're looking at 0.5, 0.6% rental accommodation. So it's very hard to get rental accommodation. They've gone up. You know, the rents is around about possibly $750 a week, and people that I know in the heart of Sydney are paying around about $1,800 to $2,200 a week for rent. So it's extremely high. Our cost of housing has gone up. So the medium house price, if you look in the cities, you're looking around about $1.2 to $1.5 million for a house. Cost of living, because we've headed down the path of net zero, renewables, we've done away with our resources like the coal-fired power stations. It's driven up the cost of power in Australia. It's increased by about 300%, our power bills in Australia. So they're the two main ones.
Why have the Australian authorities, the Australian establishment, allowed this to happen to the Australian people? Because it sounds like a net negative across the board: housing, economy, community, society. It's all bad news. Why has it happened? Because
of the Labor Party and their policies. The coalition were responsible for a bit of it, but it's really gone up a lot under the Labor Party and their policies. They're a socialist, communist government that is actually driving people's standard of living and way of life. People are struggling. You've got 150,000 homeless people in Australia. People may even have jobs, but they can't afford the rent. So you've got families living in tents, in parks, in cars, in right across the country, or couch surfing with their friends wherever they can get a bed. It's disgusting. Should not be this situation here in Australia.
And it's a tragedy for the great nation of Australia, the great people of Australia, Pauline, because in many ways, Australia is a model to the world. From 10 years of illegal immigration, Operation Borders, very years. So having tackled illegal immigration, why did the establishment open the borders legally with such negative consequences?
Because they've run the country into the ground, and productivity is down, even investment in Australia. Now, productivity used to be about 8.9% investment, and you're down to only about 5% at the moment. You've got a lot of countries now that were investing in Australia. Even BHP, they invested in Australia. Now they're looking at going and investing in Argentina. You've got Japan that really doesn't want to do any further business with us because there's no predictability. If you do any mining in Australia, it can take you up to 9 years to get approval. Anything here is tied down by red tape, blue tape, and green tape, environmental issues. So, you know, investment in Australia is pretty sad. So the government has put on another 50,000 public servants since they've been in. So the cost to the taxpayer is blown out. They've spent money overseas, $600 million to Papua New Guinea for a football stadium. And they've given $50 million to Afghanistan, the Taliban. This is money that's just going out the door. You've got Chris Bowen, who's flying around the world, cost another $150 million because he's president of this climate change, BS. So it's just, so the government has had to bring in all these migrants in the country to prop up the GDP.
Yeah.
And that's where the problem is, Mark.
It is. It's like a Ponzi scheme. We've seen the UK in a similar situation, arguably worse than what's happening in Australia by an order of magnitude. Before we get to what you think of Britain at the moment, Pauline, of course, we're developing this story now. We've got the breaking news that German police are looking for an Islamist who appears to have mown down 16 people at a gay pride celebration in Berlin. Here we go again. Another day, another terror attack in the West.
You know, it's so distressing to hear that, Mark. It really is. And there's people out there saying, oh, well, you know, they're a peaceful religion. They're not a peaceful religion. They have an ideology. They hate the West. They hate our way of life, our standard of living. This is what I keep fighting against all the time. And, you know, people need to wake up. There's no utopia out there. You know, we have to fight for, if we want to stand living a way of life and protect our citizens. And that's what I'm doing. You know, I'd love to help everyone around the world. We've got about 60 million people that wants to come and live in Australia. We can't provide for that amount of people. And my job is to look after the people that are here now and give them a decent standard of living, make sure they have the health care that they need, have the operations that they need to have, a roof overhead, food on the table. That's my responsibility to the people here. And I'm going to be adamant in who we bring into the country. I don't want them from these Islamist radical countries. I don't want them wearing the burqa. And if I have a chance and we get government, I tell you what, Mark, that's what I'll be doing, banning the burqa. If you come from these radical countries, you won't get a foot in the door here.
And of course, many Arab states take the threat of Islamism far more seriously than countries like the UK and Australia. Correct.
They're telling us we're fools. We are absolute fools to open up the doors to these people. They won't even take them, these countries. If we actually have a look what happened to Egypt and Lebanon and the countries that were once Christian countries and their standard of living way of life, that's all gone. It was taken over. And we have the same problem here in Australia. And slowly, like Britain, Sharia law is happening in some of our suburbs. Now, I'm totally opposed to it. And multiple marriage, you know what, the government's not prepared to do anything about it. They're not going to call it out and put a stop to it. And it's a tough road to follow down, Mark, to actually do it. But we've got to make the tough stance.
Now, Pauline, you came to the UK just a couple of weeks ago for the CPAC Conservative Conference. You spoke very well. It was a compelling speech covering many of these issues and much besides. What do you make of Britain in 2026? It's changed massively in your lifetime. What is your appraisal of the UK right now?
It breaks my heart to see the way it is. I first came to Britain in 1977. And three of my grandparents came from Britain, one from Stonehenge and two from London. My grandfather was a carpenter from London who migrated out to Australia in about 1912. And to go back there quite a few times and being back in the country, and I can see the changes, especially in London. The graffiti that's there, the people that are on the streets, I don't see the people assimilating. I see divisions in your country. I see it on the TV screens all the time, that the Brits are being disenfranchised from their own country. You can't fly the flag. You can't show pride in who you are. The kids in schools must go to the Islamic mosques and pay homage to them. It's part of the curriculum. And then what I've heard is in your prisons, they've been taken over by the Muslims and they don't know what to do about it, the radicals. So they're radicalising other prisoners in prison. You're in deep problems over there, Mark, you really are, and that's how I see it. And good on the Brits for actually standing up and saying we've had enough.
Is the UK a warning to Australia about what can happen?
Too right it is. And it's not only the UK. I see it with France and Germany, and I also see it with Denmark and Canada and many other countries. The West has been sleeping. We have been warned about this, and we've been, just told a load of rubbish that they will assimilate. They say that we have to abide under the Quran. It says that we must abide by the laws of the land only for the period of time till they grow the numbers, then they get into councils, then they get into state governments, then they will have their say, and you're going to lose your country. What I've been told is you've got over 1,000 mosques in the UK, and you've got Sharia law courts. I'd be surprised you can ever turn it around. And it's going to have to take the British people to stand up. You cannot just allow your members of parliament to take on this fight on your behalf. You, as a nation, as a people, have to stand up and support them, and you need to fight beside them. get your country back.
Well, of course, that issue of Sharia law, it has no legal jurisdiction in the country, but it can still be happening within communities, enforced unofficially, which is a problem. Pauline, what would you say to those that might argue that your remarks about Islam are Islamophobic? Would you separate moderate Muslims with Islamists?
You know, what I've said, and we saw the Bondi attacks that happened out here, I didn't hear these imams or other people come out and ridicule and have a go at it. They didn't. We don't hear anything from them. It's they're deafening. It's quietness. It's deafening. So if they really are supportive of our culture and our way of life, come out and condemn them. They won't. They're not allowed to, and they won't put down their own, Muslim beliefs. So, as I said before, my concern is, where do their loyalties lie? And you can't trust them. And these people that have been in the country, they've come in as refugees or they've been born here. And a lot of these countries, even those people that were born there, they're being radicalised. They're actually turning and following the Islam beliefs. And I don't know why it's happening, even people that have been born here.
Well, Pauline, you couldn't make it up, because there are certain Arab states that will not allow their young people to come and study in the UK for fear that they will be radicalised into Islamism. And these are Arab states who, as we said earlier, are very tough on this hateful, wicked ideology. And of course, we've had Manchester Arena, we've had London Bridge, we've had Berlin in the last 24 hours. Christmas markets have got armed cops. Western cities have concrete barriers now so that you can't use a car as a weapon. And of course, Australia are still mourning Bondi Beach.
It is, Mark. We need to really open up our eyes and have a look what's happening. Why have we changed our stance on things to accommodate those people that we may not feel safe in our own countries? You know, it's too late when another life is taken. And as you said, opening there, what happened in Germany, we can't afford that. We can't afford to lose more lives. We need to get tough on this and say, sorry, we're not going to allow you. If Arab countries won't allow them in, why are we taking them in? Like we took 3,000 in from the Gaza. Now, 24-hour check on them. That's all it was, 24 hours. We don't know who they are. 75 to 80% of people from Gaza support the Hamas, the terrorist organisation. And we took them in. No, this was the Labor government. And I tell you what, the Labor governments right around the world are not there for the people. They've changed over the years. They used to be. They're not anymore. They're socialist, communist, Marxist governments, and these people, their thought process is not in the best interest for our countries.
Pauline, I've only got 60 seconds left. Can you win in Australia, and can you save Australia?
I believe that we can. The support that I'm getting as I move around the country, and I've been travelling today, the number of people that come up to me is absolutely astounding. And they're saying, please do not give up. Keep fighting for us. So we have to wait till the next election day. Mark, I'm going to do my best to fight for the people out there. But as I said, they've got to join the fight with me. I can't do it alone. And then it's making the tough decisions, which we can. You need leadership. People want strong, decisive leadership in the country.
Pauline, more power to you. An honour to have you on Talk Breakfast, and we will catch up soon.